Alright, hello guys, and welcome to this video where I am going to do the first of hopefully a series of duels between figures. And what I have here today is Generations Deluxe Class Blurr on the left corner, and on the right is last year's figures, 2016 Titans Return Generations Deluxe Blurr. Two figures with very different ideas and styling of what is ostensibly the same character. Now, what I have here for the different, attributes to compare, at the top, quality, and quality is mainly quality of materials and the plastics in use. Durability refers to, the toughness of the figure, the heft, how it feels like it will take a beating or not. Finishing refers mainly to paint and joints and tightness and all that. Design and style, now that refers to the overall feel and aesthetics of the figure. Admittedly, a lot of this is going to be somewhat subjective, but we'll do our best to be somewhat objective about it with scores out of 10 for each category. And then we go on to robot mode, and that includes posability, the overall feel and articulation, transformation, how involved it is, how fun it is, vehicle mode, including any, interactions for the vehicle mode, accessories, that speaks for itself, how good the accessories are. And lastly, an X factor, whether there's something special, something that additionally brings this figure into light, whether it's G1 hallmarks or callbacks, or relations to current media, etc. And I have to give credit to Urban Gentry for, the overall format. That's a watch channel, a very prominent watch channel. And he uses a similar thing. Now this is 9 categories, so it's going to add up to a score out of 90. I'll think about a 10th one, so we get a more rounded out of 100, for future reviews, hopefully. Okay, so Blurr's a character that, obviously anybody will remember in terms of movie media, appeared first in the 1986 film Transfomers the movie, and that fast talker, super fast mover, originally a courier, but then became a hyper warrior, I guess you can call him. And Generations Blurr was based on the comic character, and very much a remold of that very popular drift figure. Very, warrior-esque Blurr, tough looking, comes with 2 pistols and that that long rifle at the back, where Drift had a sword, he has this long rifle, and the pistols of course fit in the holsters on the side. And that's that's really that figure. It's a tall figure, obviously, and the side by side you can see immediately he's quite a bit taller than the Titans Return Blurr. This again is also based on comic Blurr, but more recent IDW comics, which have Blurr as a much more lithe character, which I think arguably is more towards his abilities, and overall I think this figure does look more like the G1. Obviously the vehicle is definitely more like the G1 than Generations drift style Blurr. Okay, so let's go through and see how they fare against one another. Okay, so quality, plastics, I think they're very similar. I can't split them apart. Before I dug this guy out of my shelf, this is obviously a recent acquisition. I dug this guy out. I thought this is going to be more solid. It's not really. I think it may be marginally heavier, but that's because it's really got overall more plastic, not because the plastic's thicker. They both are reasonable. They're not as good as I think a few years back. You take it back, the plastics are even tougher. Even the transparent bit, how they feel, the heft of it, I can't can't separate the plastic's toughness, the solidity of the plastic. Now durability is a little bit different. I think this guy is just a little bit less durable. The joints, some of the things do feel like they will come apart easier. This guy just, overall how the figure feels and how it fits together, it just feels a little bit tougher. That's a bit subjective, but I'm going to give 8 to Generations Blurr. I'm going to give 7 to Titans Return Blurr. 8 and 8 for quality. Finishing. There's not a huge amount. There's some paint apps here and there. There's a bit of gold on the waist there. No paint on the weapons. Some paint on the body. The car doesn't have decals. Drift did, but this figure doesn't. So I don't think the finishing is super, but it's okay. So 7 for him, 7 for Titans Return Blurr as well, who really doesn't have much in the way except for the decorated nose cone. Now, of course, if I had the Takara figure, Legends, I think, Blur, I definitely would give that figure a higher mark, because it does have a lot more apps that make it pop. This figure doesn't quite have that much. Sorry, I mistransformed here. I'll just push that app section back. Okay, robot mode. Okay, sorry, design and style next. Now, stylistically, I think this guy has a lot going for him, but it's a little bit more conventional. I think I just like the styling they've taken, the liberties they've taken to make this figure. Admittedly, it is a remold, but I think it is a good remold, and certain things about the styling, the hands, how those bits sweep in, and then you can change the look as well to get a bit more of a high shoulder look for Blur, which some people feel gives a bit of more of a speed feel to him, and I don't mind either way. It's got that samurai style feel to it because of drift. I really like the styling, even though it's not G1. That just has a little bit more panache to it, I think. So I'm going to give a 9 to that one. Whereas, I really like this figure, but it's just a bit more conventional. It's still really good, so it gets an 8. Robot mode, okay. I think here, in terms of the articulation, posability, very, very close. This one, you could argue, is a little bit harder to pose because of the size of the shoulders. But you can get him into various poses, and there's double jointed elbows which help the gun positioning and all that, and then these are articulated as well, so there's plenty there. This guy can get in arguably even more poses. I think it doesn't quite have as much articulation. He doesn't have that double joint for the elbow, so the gun can only go to 90 degrees there. He's got this loose bits here, and then he's got the kibble on the back. Not that that's part of articulation, but overall, I think the feel is that they're very, very similar. A little bit more lithe, just a little bit more chunky, but you still can get him into poses. Okay, transformation. So, is it fun and involved? Well, I'm going to stop the video now. I'm going to transform them off-site and then bring it back, and we'll rate the transformation and the stuff afterwards. All right, here we are. So, after going through the transformation again, I've already practiced this a few times, but I think this guy was more fun. He's definitely quicker, easier, and for folding into a vehicle mode, from a vehicle to a robot mode, that is still very cool. I enjoyed that transformation a bit more. This one, it's very involved. It's a little bit fiddly. It can be a bit frustrating at times if you've just picked it up again after a while. Whilst it's still a good transformation, I think Titans Return edges out on this one. Vehicle mode. Okay, so the problem with Cybertronian style is, I guess they're not, in a sense, bound to stick to anything. So you kind of can shortcut and get away with things. This is not exactly like G1. There's a lot of cues to G1, but I think it's just easier to get it into something that's completely alien. It's cool enough, but it's not quite as cool. I think even though I do like the character and the style, I think this I've got to give it to this. This really is much more in terms of having to fold into a vehicle shape that's recognizable and Earth-like. I don't know if there's a car. I don't think there's a car that's exactly like this, but it's got cues from various muscle cars, but even more in Japanese, particularly some of the Nissan models, the 350Z, some of the silhouette. Not exactly, but I think there's some cues that are taken from that. So I think I enjoy this. I really like this vehicle shape, both in this and in the drift mold. So I'm going to give vehicle quite a bias towards that. But that's again subjective. That's just my opinion. You might have a different feel to it. Okay, accessories. Right. So what do we have? We have two pistols and a rifle. Right. Immediately. Sorry, just dropped one on the floor. Bane of accessories. So reasonable looking, and it functions well on his hand, and it holsters as well. And then what I think is a pretty cool long rifle, and that sits well when he poses with it. So I think they're quite nice. I just think probably the Titan Master and the sled. I don't have much use for the sled, but this has a Titan Master. And this has a basic gun, right? They're pretty close, but the vehicle does have that play gimmick to the Titan Master being able to sit in there. So, I think I like the rifles more. I like the guns more. I don't have much respect for the sled gimmick. I just don't enjoy it, but I do I do enjoy the Titan Master, how it sits in the vehicle. So, it's still a respectable 7 for the Titan Master figure, but I'm going to give again the edge to the Generations figure. All right, X Factor. What it comes down to is how much these figures harken back to mythology, to G1. I think they both have different things, but I think this guy just is a lot more mainstream. A lot more of the media reminds me of a figure like this rather than the tough samurai Japanese car sniper killer Blurr. That's just a little bit more of a detractment. I like the design, but I think I really think that this one has a little bit more of nostalgia and just the overall feel of the character. So I think I'm going to give the X Factor slightly over to Titan's Return, if close, but I think I'm going to give it to that. So overall, I think you can see it's a pretty close battle, but if you've been adding up, the score out of 90. Generations Drift just slightly edges out. I think these are both great figures. I've enjoyed both of them. I really like both of them. In the end, I think if I was going to prefer a figure just for display and overall enjoyment, it's this. But if I was going to do a G1 display with his compadres, with Hot Rod, with RC, with Ultra Magnus, with Springer, I can't believe we've got all those. This is great that we've got all those figures. This would be my choice, for that display. So there we have it. I hope that's been enjoyable. I guess a view, a new way of dueling. I'm not sure if anybody in the Transformers world has done something like this. So let me know what you think, what you might do differently, any thoughts on the overall process. Thank you again, guys, for watching this far, and as always, I will catch you next time. Cheers.